Have you ever looked up at a tall mountain or stood beside a towering tree? There is something inside us that is drawn to things that are big. We are fascinated by their size and power. This feeling is not new. It is as old as humanity itself. For thousands of years, people have told stories about giants. These stories are found in cultures all around the world. But some of the most powerful stories come from the Old Testament. These tales speak of a time when giants walked the earth. A time when humanity was small and the world felt very, very large. The idea of a giant is simple. It is a being that looks like us but is much larger and stronger. This simple idea holds a deep fascination. Giants can represent many things. They can be our biggest fears. They can be the challenges we must overcome. Or they can be a reminder of a forgotten, ancient past. When we read about giants in the Bible, we are connecting with these ancient feelings. We are asking the same questions our ancestors asked. What does it mean to be human? And what incredible things existed before our time? The stories pull us in because they are both strange and familiar. The stories of giants in the Old Testament are not just simple fairy tales. They are woven into the history of the early Israelites. They appear in moments of great conflict and change. These giants are not just big people. They are described as warriors, kings, and even the offspring of divine beings. Their presence raises questions about the very nature of the world in those ancient days. Was the world different then? Were there beings that we can no longer see today? The Bible presents them as a real part of the landscape, a real threat that had to be faced. This fascination with giants keeps their stories alive. We explore them not just for entertainment, but for meaning. We wonder if they were real historical figures, or perhaps they are powerful symbols meant to teach us important lessons about faith and courage. The mystery is part of the appeal. It invites us to dig deeper, to question, and to explore the boundaries between history and myth. As we journey into these ancient texts, we are not just reading stories. We are joining a search for understanding that has lasted for centuries, a quest to uncover the truth behind the legends. The Bible introduces several groups of giants. Perhaps the most mysterious are the nephilim. The book of Genesis tells us they were on the earth in those days. It says they were the children of the sons of God and the daughters of men. This description is short, but it is powerful. It suggests a mixing of the divine and the human. The Nephilim were called heroes of old, men of renown. Their story is brief, but it leaves a lasting impression. It hints at a world filled with wonders and dangers that we can barely imagine. Who were these sons of God? The question still echoes today. Then we meet Goliath. He is probably the most famous giant of all. The story of David and Goliath is known around the world. Goliath was a champion of the Philistine army. The Bible gives us his exact height. It says he was over 9 feet tall. He wore heavy bronze armor and carried a massive spear. He was a symbol of unbeatable power. When he challenged the army of Israel, everyone was afraid. He was more than just a big soldier. He was a test of faith. His story shows us that giants are not just ancient history. They can appear in our own lives as challenges that seem impossible to defeat. Another group of giants mentioned are the enochim. When Moses sent spies into the Promised Land, they came back with a terrifying report. They said they saw the descendants of Anak there. The spies described these people as so large that the Israelites felt like grasshoppers next to them. This report filled the people with fear. It made them doubt God's promise. The enochim represent a different kind of giant. They are the obstacle that stands between us and our destiny. They are the fear that can paralyze us and make us want to give up on our journey. Finally, we read about the Rephaim. This term is sometimes used to describe giants in general, or a specific tribe of them. King Og of Bashan was one of the last of the Rephaim. The Bible tells us about his bed. It was a huge iron bed more than 13 feet long. This detail is there for a reason. It is meant to show us the incredible size of this king. By defeating King Og, the Israelites proved that their faith was stronger than any giant. The stories of the Rephaim, the Anakim, Goliath, and the Nephilim all serve a purpose. They paint a picture of a world where great faith was needed to overcome great challenges. How do we understand these stories today? There are two main ways to look at the giants of the Old Testament. One way is to see them as real, historical beings. Some people believe that these accounts are literal history. They believe that a race of very large humans once walked the earth. They point to the specific details in the text, like Goliath's height or the size of King Og's bed. For them, these are not just story elements. They are facts recorded by people who saw these things. This view sees the Bible as a reliable historical document in every detail. This literal interpretation has led many to search for physical evidence. People have looked for giant skeletons or ancient artifacts that could prove these stories are true. They believe that finding such evidence would confirm the truth of the Bible. This view holds that the world was once very different, and that the Nephilim were a real hybrid race. For those who hold this view, the giants are a key part of human history. They are a lost chapter that we are slowly rediscovering. The stories are not myths, but memories of a time when the world was filled with giant wonders. The other way to understand these stories is to see the giants as powerful symbols. In this view, the giants might not have been literal 9-foot-tall men. Instead, they could represent powerful enemy nations or fearsome warlords. A giant could be a symbolic way to describe a terrifying enemy. When the spies felt like grasshoppers, maybe they were expressing their deep fear, not measuring the Anakim's exact height. Goliath could represent the military power of the Philistines. He was a giant problem that seemed impossible for a small nation like Israel to solve. This symbolic view does not mean the stories are not true. It means their truth is found on a different level. The truth is not in the physical size of the giants, but in what they teach us. They teach us about courage, faith, and the struggle between good and evil. They are stories about overcoming giant obstacles in our lives. Whether the giant is a person, a fear, or a difficult situation, the lesson is the same. This perspective allows the stories to speak to people in any time and any place. The giants become a metaphor for the great challenges that all of humanity must face. So, what do we take away from these ancient stories? Whether you see the giants as real or as symbols, they teach us a powerful lesson about perspective. The Israelite spies saw the Anakim and felt like grasshoppers. Their fear made them small. But two of the spies, Joshua and Caleb, saw things differently. They saw God's promise, not the size of the enemy. The story of David and Goliath teaches the same lesson. Everyone else saw an unbeatable giant. David saw a challenge that God would help him overcome. These stories ask us to look at our own problems and ask, do we see giants, or do we see an opportunity for faith to triumph? These tales are also about courage, not the absence of fear, but acting in spite of fear. The soldiers in the Israelite army were all afraid of Goliath. David was likely afraid too, but he found the courage to step forward when no one else would. This is a timeless message. Life will always present us with giants, problems that seem too big to handle. These stories encourage us to find our own courage. They remind us that one person, armed with faith and bravery, can make a difference. They teach that the size of the challenge is less important than the size of our spirit. The stories of giants also leave us with a sense of wonder and mystery. They hint at a world that is more complex and mysterious than we know. Who were the Nephilim? Were they fallen angels, powerful human kings, or something else entirely? The Bible gives us just enough information to capture our imagination, but not enough to solve the puzzle completely. This mystery is important. It reminds us that there are things about God and the world that we may never fully understand. It invites us to be humble and to keep searching for answers, knowing that the journey itself is valuable. In the end, the question of whether giants were real might not be the most important one. The bigger question is, what do the giants mean to us today? Do they represent the powerful forces in the world that seem to control everything? Do they stand for the personal fears that hold us back? Or are they a reminder that the world is an ancient and mysterious place? The stories of the giants of the Old Testament continue to be told because they speak to something deep within us. They challenge us, they inspire us, and they leave us wondering. And perhaps that is their true purpose.